Today, we bring you some news. Camilla secretly leaves you. After Princess Anne's reported warning to her recent stories have caused watchers of the British monarchy to feel uneasy, since they have suggested that the House of Windsor is now experiencing a significant crisis inside its own ranks. According to a number of different stories, Queen Camilla departed the United Kingdom for a location that has not been revealed under circumstances that have sparked great suspicion among both general public and the general public. These stories point to a triggering event that took place at Raymell House, which is Camilla's private estate in Wiltshire. According to the sources, a charity gathering turned out to be the location of an exceptionally heated dispute between the Queen Consort and Princess Anne. An allegation that, if true, appealed to issues that went far beyond a single object and reactivated long-simmering tensions within the family was made by the Princess Royal, who allegedly accused Camilla of possessing a valuable heirloom that had belonged to the late Queen Elizabeth Roman II. This allegation was made by people who were present as well as sources who were close to the household. Because of this, the occurrence has brought up some challenging considerations about the stability of the monarchy during a time of change that is particularly delicate. Over the course of many decades, Raymell House has been referred to as Camilla's private refuge. It is a residence that she acquired in 1996, after her divorce from Andrew Parker, B.S., and it is a distinctive location in comparison to the palaces that are maintained by the royal family, such as Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, and Windsor Castle. Raymell House has been used as a personal retreat, holding family parties and occasional facing moments relating to Camilla's charitable work and private milestones. These official houses serve many objectives, including ceremonial and constitutional functions. In 2006, it served as the location for the wedding celebration for her daughter, Laura Lopes, and it also served as the backdrop for an official photograph that was taken to commemorate Camilla's 75th special birthday. Camilla seemed to view the estate as a symbol of personal freedom and a unique place of regular family life away from the unrelenting formality and scrutiny of official royal responsibilities. At the same time, the estate was seen by the general public as a rural hideaway that was ideal. Those tranquil interactions were reportedly quickly and drastically disturbed during what had been scheduled as a regular humanitarian activity. This was said to have occurred during the event. A standard program consisting of speeches, photos, and casual discussion had been prepared for the staff and visitors who had been informed beforehand. Rather, according to witnesses, the occurrence turned out to be the catalyst for a family conflict that was quite upsetting. An incident that occurred when Camilla and Princess Anne entered a room together and were immediately involved in a furious dispute was reported by those who were there. The tensions between them reached a boiling point. The relationship between Anne and Camilla has been described by royal analysts for a long time as being guided more by duty and mutual respect than by warmth. Nevertheless, some who were there said that the conflict was far more than the typical coldness that is occasionally seen in official contacts between senior royals. Those who were present at the event said that Princess Anne's voice, which is normally characterized by its forthrightness, was a jarring contrast to the otherwise courteous atmosphere that prevailed there. It was reported that she confronted Camilla with a direct accusation, which was that an item of considerable personal and symbolic value, which was described in these accounts as one of the most treasured possessions of the late Queen Elizabeth Roman II, was in Camilla's private possession at Raymell House rather than in custody of the official royal collection. An urgent explanation was apparently required by the Princess Royal on the circumstances behind the removal of the artifact from official possession and its subsequent placement in a private residence. To put it another way, the disagreement was not only about who had ownership of a particular item. It also included issues of custody appropriateness and the preservation of objects that were connected to the historical heritage of a monarch. It is stated that Queen Camilla was obviously agitated when she was confronted with an accusation that was both direct and well known. The individuals who were there said that she made an effort to diffuse the issue by attempting to have a private conversation with her sister-in-law. She did this because she was aware that a charity event would be viewed not only by the personnel of the home, but also by a larger audience via social media and the journalism. Camilla was said to be making an attempt to keep the topic out of the hearing of visitors in order to avoid embarrassing the Princess Royal, according to those involved in the situation. Despite this, Princess Anne's anger does not seem to have subsided. It was said that she became more adamant about her point of view. Her voice became louder and more demanding, so changing what might have been handled as a private family quarrel into a semi-public reprimand. And very personal and cutting statement is said to have been the pinnacle of the dispute, which apparently reached its peak. Princess Anne is said to have stated in language that has been widely cited in subsequent accounts that in her eyes, as well as in the eyes of those who place a great deal of importance on tradition, Camilla would never be considered a true queen. This phrase carries not only the weight of a personal reproach, but also the weight of a debate that has been going on for a long time regarding legitimacy, propriety, and the boundaries of royal office. A categorical repudiation is one that does not challenge a particular act on its own, but rather calls into question the fundamental position and acceptability of a prominent royal official. It was decided to interfere by royal security officers in order to separate the two ladies and restrict the visibility of the conversation. According to reports, a royal security officer intervened in order to separate the people involved and prevent the situation from becoming any more heated. According to sources, Princess Anne nevertheless stood firm enough to issue a final stern injunction that Camilla should never again handle any items that had belonged to her mother, Queen Elizabeth. Roman II. With that ultimatum delivered, Princess Anne is said to have abruptly left the room, leaving behind an audience stunned into silence and an atmosphere thick with awkwardness and concern. The presence of Prince William, the Prince of Wales, added another layer of complexity to the issue. A member of his staff is believed to have informed him about the disruption, and it is also alleged that he entered the room at the precise moment when the dispute was coming to a close. Observers remarked that his engagement with his stepmother was modest and fleeting. It was stated that he exchanged few, if any, words with Queen Camilla before leaving the scene within a duration of less than 1 minute. His demeanor was regarded as solemn and quiet by commentators. He did not seem outwardly furious, but he was nevertheless constrained. The shortness and coldness of his reaction gave another degree of concern to those who were seeing it. It suggested that there may have been potentially tense dynamics among senior members of the family, and it prompted questions about where loyalties could have been pulled at that tense time. In spite of the disruption, the charity event proceeded according to an established schedule. Nonetheless, guests subsequently remarked that there was a discernible change in the mood. The relaxed atmosphere that had prevailed earlier had been replaced by a cautious stillness, and there was a distinct understanding that something big had taken place. The ensuing altercation was brought to the attention of King Charles, and those who were near to him reported his demeanor as becoming more resolute as he learned the specifics. A tacit mist of caution rapidly dropped over the occasion, as is established royal procedure for a long time. Both the servants and the visitors knew tacitly that the topic was not to be mentioned in public. Despite this, reliable sources claimed that the harm had already been done. Princess Anne's charges, which were delivered with force and in a situation where there was a high potential for public awareness, stayed in people's thoughts and hinted that there may be a significant fracture among the top members of the monarchy. It is possible that the occurrence at Raymil House seemed unexpected to those who were not there. However, royal historians and others who are acquainted with the dynamics of families believe that it was in many aspects the culmination of tensions that had been building up for decades. The relationship between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla is often characterized as being molded by a complicated history of personal connections, perceived slights, and fundamentally different temperaments and views of royal duty. This is a frequent and accurate description of the relationship. A number of people believe that these underlying conflicts can be traced back to the early 1970s, and they are intricately connected to the persona of Andrew Parker B.S. Prior to his marriage to Camilla Shand in 1973, Parker B.S. had been romantically connected to a young Princess Anne during their time together. A long-lasting personal relationship was established between Anne B.S. and Parker B.S. as a result of their romance, which at the time created social attention. Despite the fact that it did not result in marriage, it did so. The subsequent marriage of Camilla to him was seen by some onlookers as an intrusion into Anne's personal life, which was considered to be a private realm. A subtle stream of discomfort and unresolved sentiments continued under the surface for years, according to many who have examined the connections between Anne and Camilla. This was the case even in situations when the exchanges between the two personalities looked to be respectful. Camilla's comeback as a key presence in Charles's life during his marriage to Diana, Princess of Wales, became an additional source of stress for him, which further exacerbated the situation. Camilla's latter participation in the dissolution of Charles and Diana's marriage was viewed and understood as a violation of etiquette and principle by Princess Anne, who has established her public image on an uncompromising devotion to duty discipline and the maintenance of institutional integrity. Princess Anne has built her reputation on these principles. It was acknowledged by Anne and those who shared her opinion that the linkage of Camilla with the dissolution of that marriage had the potential to have a destabilizing influence on the royal household as well as on the personal well-being of the Princess of Wales. On the other hand, Camilla's storyline has been considered by some as being more ambiguous, with some people seeing it as being self-interested or as contributing to constitutional and reputational upheaval. This is in contrast to Anne's storyline, which has often been perceived as representing restraint and sacrifice. The feelings of bitterness with regard to those incidents have never been confined to a private realm. The controversy that occurred between Charles and Camilla was a landmark incident in the history of the royal family during the latter half of the 20th century. It had long-lasting ramifications for the public's opinions of the people who were involved. The revelations that Diana made to Andrew Morton in 1992 and the interview that she gave to Panorama in 1995 were crucial in the formation of that memory. The straightforwardness of Diana's testimony, which included the witty remark, "Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," transformed suspicion into a powerful public narrative that portrayed Diana as the spouse who had been wronged and firmly established Camilla's reputation in the popular imagination as the person who had snuck into the marriage. Following Diana's passing in 1997, Camilla was subjected to persistent animosity and mistrust in the years that followed. Camilla's efforts to integrate into public life and to redefine her place within royal family were made more difficult by the cultural shade created by Diana's memory. Her every action was intensely scrutinized, and the cultural shadow formed by Diana's memory was a cultural burden even after she married Charles in 2005 and adopted the title of Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Cornwall. Camilla continued to face opposition from members of the public on whether or not she was suitable for a prominent role. She continued to be inextricably linked to the anguish and distress that characterized Diana's public story, particularly for many people. Given this historical context, it is easier to see why the heirloom that was purportedly discovered at Raymell House took on symbolic meaning that went much beyond the simple existence of an item that had been missing. Princess Anne, according to many who were there, interpreted the finding as a literal confirmation of a long-held belief. This conviction was a story that Camilla had at times seized roles, relationships, and symbols that others considered should have been appropriated elsewhere. According to their interpretation, the ownership of a valued artifact belonging to Queen Elizabeth Roman II in a private residence, particularly one that was linked with Camilla's private life, was not a matter of administrative pettiness, but rather an insult to the memory of the Queen and to the institutional values that Anne held dear. In addition, the issue of title has been a source of contention that has persisted throughout time. During the Platinum Jubilee celebrations that took place in February 2022, the late Queen had made a public declaration of her sincere wish that Camilla be given the title of Queen Consort upon Charles's election as king. Her choice of phraseology, which was Queen Consort rather than just Queen, was generally viewed as a thoughtful calibration. It was a statement of Camilla's status as the spouse of the sovereign, but at the same time maintaining the linguistic boundary between a reigning sovereign and a consort. On the other hand, upon his ascension, King Charles made the choice to refer to his wife as Queen Camilla. Although this was a decision that was within his prerogative, it was one that some people regarded as veering from the careful subtlety that his mother had maintained. According to reports from palace insiders, Princess Anne was one of the most vociferous critics of that alteration. She saw it as an issue of devotion to the desires stated by the late Queen and to the proper conduct of the institution. Those conflicts were pushed into the open for a large number of people to see at the coronation that took place in May of 2023. In spite of the fact that the event was a time of national grandeur, it brought up complicated emotions and lasting resentments for a great number of people. The image of Camilla being crowned with Charles served as a clear reminder of the difficulties that preceded her elevation. It was a reminder of a troubled history that includes personal and constitutional ruptures. For certain members of the family and portions of the public, the sight of Camilla being crowned alongside Charles was a sharp reminder of its significance. Witnessing that crowning may have been a cause of significant emotional struggle for a person like Princess Anne, who has persistently stressed virtues connected with her mother's lengthy reign. It would have been the climax of a chapter that she had silently and at times aggressively opposed all throughout her life. The intensity of the outcry, the reported finding at Raymell House, may be somewhat explained by the symbolic stakes included in the situation. The item was not only an object in this context, rather, it was a tangible manifestation of complaints that had collected over the course of many decades. According to the stories, Princess Anne considered the fact that it was located on a private estate to be the final evidence of a recurrent suspicion that Camilla had crossed the lines that separated personal property and public heritage. The narrative of appropriation and moral violation has been a frequent feature in the public discourse around Camilla's existence and role in the family. This narrative has been a persistent topic of discussion. It is possible that Anne, who has often been portrayed as a defender of tradition, had a sense of affront to memory and institutional traditions when she discovered a valued relic of the late Queen at Camilla's residence during her visit. There has been a significant amount of disagreement among commentators in the aftermath of the conflict and the rumored departure of Camilla from the United Kingdom. There was a quick spread of photographs depicting the Queen boarding a private plane, and interpretations of her departure were in conflict with one another along party lines. Her choice to quit was seen by critics as an implied acknowledgement of wrongdoing or as an incapacity to endure public scrutiny. In other words, it was a retreat rather than a deliberate exit. According to this interpretation, there is a void at the center of the monarchy, which means that King Charles is responsible for carrying out official tasks while simultaneously handling a private issue that has public repercussions. Those who hold such criticisms believe that Camilla may not possess the stoic fortitude that is normally required of a senior royal, and the optics of her leaving lend credence to this notion. Supporters of Queen Camilla, on the other hand, claim that she has been exposed to an excessively severe and continuous campaign of condemnation that has been influenced by residual resentments and an environment of sensationalist media. They highlight her extensive history of public service, which includes her consistent funding for charitable organizations, her covert assistance to the king, and her consistent discharge of civic obligations. From their point of view, Camilla's attempts to acquire acceptance by low-key service and careful messaging were making progress. The Ramel House event, which was framed by opportunistic reporting, depicts an intensified family conflict that was blown up into a national issue. King Charles's personal health is a factor that makes the matter more complicated. As a result of the reports that he is now having treatment for cancer, the optics of internal division are extremely challenging. The royal household today displays an image that is tinged with conflict and disintegration, which is something that may be anticipated at a moment when a unified family front would be expected. As a result, the choice that the king made earlier to appoint Camilla as queen, which was widely understood as a gesture of personal allegiance, has been exposed to further examination. The question that has been asked is whether or not that decision prioritized private feelings above institutional cohesiveness and public consciousness. In what ways may a decision of this kind impact the king's authority and the efforts he makes to establish his reign on a foundation of consistent stewardship? The apparent misplacement of an object from the royal collection creates practical problems of provenance, record-keeping, and custody practices. These questions go beyond the difficulties that arise within the family. By establishing obligations for documenting, preserving, and lending things that are considered to be part of the national heritage, the royal collection trust and museum experts who manage the care of royal objects have jointly created these tasks. The issue becomes administrative as well as symbolic in the event that an item that is officially a part of the royal collection was discovered in a private house. How did it get there? Were the appropriate processes followed? And is it possible to rectify any errors by returning the item and resolving any gaps that may have occurred? It is possible that such procedural concerns will need documentation, verification, and institutional explanation. Even if the problem continues to be portrayed for the public as largely pertaining to the family relationships, every nuance of the tale has been enhanced by the use of social media. After just a few hours had passed after the photographs and stories were published, opinion began to spread across many platforms. Both supporters and opponents of the narrative recycled previous versions of the story and offered other interpretations. Since there have been no rapid and thorough comments from the government, the information vacuum has been filled by rumors, conjecture, and interpretations that are biased against a certain political party. This dynamic, which involves the fast reframing of events through the prism of long-standing prejudices, makes the palace's conventional tactics of damage control more difficult to implement. These approaches depend on measured pronouncements and diplomatic maneuvering that is not overt. Discourse that is instantaneous and spreads like wildfire makes it more difficult for thoughtful account giving to prevail. Additionally, it is probable that government officials are keeping an eye on the development, despite the fact that constitutional tradition placed the monarch above politics, and that the royal family maintains norms to prevent direct political involvement. The stability of the monarchy is important to the existence and identity of the country. There is a possibility that members of parliament, especially those who serve on committees that are involved with constitutional matters, may feel obligated to monitor developments for any potential ramifications that may arise for state events, the operation of the crown, or the management of historic institutions. Even in the event that the situation is legally considered to be a private family dispute, the fact that it is of such a public nature may prompt queries from the Parliament or requests for attention to be paid to the custody arrangements for goods that are of national importance. It has been claimed that advisors are now considering several alternatives for a reaction inside the palace. These choices include carefully worded public remarks that are designed to ease fears, as well as private reconciliations that are intended to keep the conflict out of the media. Many people anticipate that first actions will place an emphasis on the personal and family character of the situation. The home has historically placed a high value on secrecy and repair work that is performed behind closed doors, but the longer uncertainty continues to exist, the more likely it is that conjecture will become more ingrained. In the short term, silence may help maintain closeness, but it can also cause reputational harm over time. On the other hand, a public reckoning that is both prompt and comprehensive has the potential to inflame tensions and provoke further scrutiny. For royal communications teams, one of the most common challenges is to strike a balance between those dangers. The decisions that Queen Camilla must make are difficult for her personally. The choice she must make is whether to stay away from the country for a lengthy amount of time, so enabling her fury to calm down and the focus of the media to lessen, or whether to return immediately and seek to make amends in both public and private settings. There is a possibility that a return will provide an opportunity for expressions of regret, explanations, or reconciliation, as well as the private effort that is necessary to restore ties within the family. If, however, a public return is not followed by a credible and open strategy to addressing the substantive problem at the core of the dispute, namely the origin of the artifact and the appropriateness of its custody, then it runs the danger of fanning the attention of the press and giving an opportunity for further discoveries. The events of this story bring to light wider problems about the link between private ownership and public heritage in the realm of royal governance. The possessions of the monarchy consist of a variety of personal things and artifacts that are a part of the royal collection, which is kept in trust for the country and for future reigns. When things shift between various categories, whether by mistake, agreement, or misunderstanding, it is vital to have procedures that are open and transparent, as well as paperwork that is well documented in order to avoid confusion and disagreement. It is possible that the Raymel house claim might be subject to procedural correction if it is determined that the claim is the result of an administrative mistake or a miscataloguing. In the event that it serves, however, as a symbolic affirmation of a narrative of appropriation, then the resolution will not only demand the completion of paperwork, but it will also require the reconciliation of feeling and memory. The public's response is likely to continue to be divided. For some people, the event serves as a reminder that organizations such as families must always work to connect their ideals with their actions, and that considerations of custodianship and respect for memory are important. As far as some people are concerned, This is only another instance of old debates being rehashed by an attention economy that lives on divisiveness. There is a possibility that the popularity rating for the monarchy as a whole, for the king and for the queen consort in particular, may fluctuate in the next weeks according to polling research. In order to ensure the institution's durability, top members and advisors will need to demonstrate that they are able to successfully transform private mending into public comfort. Therefore, restoring a feeling of togetherness that is the foundation of symbolic legitimacy, by putting a focus on continuity and adjusting rights and public discourse to accommodate changing sensibilities, the monarchy has been able to weather various storms throughout its history. The question of whether or not such methods are capable of being implemented successfully in our day and age, which is characterized by immediate media cycles and increased demands of responsibility, remains in question. It is at this point that people engaged will be put to the test in terms of their personal capabilities to demonstrate repentance, to settle conflicts in a calm manner, and to recast narratives in a manner that will allow the institution to go ahead without surrendering its dignity. This is the most important practical and ethical dilemma that the palace is now facing, and it is whether or not it is possible to do this while avoiding public show trials and maintaining the monarchy's extended duties. There are hardly many examples that are flawless. Royal families are by their very nature private, and the internal disputes that occur within them are typically kept hidden from public view. When these conflicts do become public, consequences are quite variable. There are certain disagreements that are quickly resolved, while others become ingrained and have long-lasting consequences on how the public perceives them. Because of the specific historical baggage that surrounds Camilla, which includes the emotional resonance of Diana's memory, the magnitude of the public scandal that occurred in the 1990s, and the pervasive cultural narratives about virtue and transgression, the current episode reverberates more loudly and persistently than many other disputes might. Can Queen Camilla recover from this incident and restore her position within the family as well as the public imagination? Or has the crisis caused damage that is too deep to be completely repaired? This is the key issue that continues to be raised as the tale continues to develop. This story addresses the essence of what the monarchy represents, which is familial legitimacy, historical memory, and moral authority. Despite the fact that British monarchy has endured a number of scandals, deaths, and political changes over the course of centuries, this particular incident has a significant impact. Individual histories, conflicts across generations, and the strong and lasting legacy of Diana, Princess of Wales, are all intertwined throughout the narrative. The shadows of that past have proved to be far-reaching and tenacious. Issue of whether or not they can be completely eradicated is now one that is fraught with a great deal of ambiguity. In the short term, the focus will be on a number of specific aspects, include the origin of the contested heirloom, a detailed explanation of the sequence of events that took place at Raymell House, and any measures that were taken to guarantee possession of artifacts linked with the deceased queen. If the Royal Collection Trust and the curatorial staff of the palace are consulted, it will be required of them to offer unequivocal answers about whether or not the item in issue is officially a part of the national collection, if it is the mechanisms of its transfer, and any procedural breaches will need to be clarified. At the same time, the family will have to handle the interpersonal aspect, which includes determining whether or not private reconciliation is possible, and determining the extent to which public remarks, which are tailored to respect confidences, while also comforting the country, are required. The equilibrium of legitimacy and repute within the House of Windsor will continue to be precarious and contentious until those actions are done and their consequences are evaluated by both the past and the opinion of the general public. In the days and weeks ahead, not only will the endurance of human relationships be put to the test, but also the capability of the monarchy to maintain its position as a center of unity and moral authority in modern day Britain will be put to the test as a result of the manner in which advisors, family members, and institutions choose to navigate the overlap of personal hurt, institutional stewardship, and public expectation. The crisis will either become a temporary rupture that can be contained, or a longer lived fault line that will have consequences for the future of the monarchy.